Imagine, if you will, a boy. A boy so timid and so anxious, so terrified of being scared, that he will go out of his way to avoid horror. No matter where it is, in a game, in a film, in a TV show, any hint of a scare, he will not go near. But the question is, why is this boy like this? What happened? Join me as we ponder the question, why was this boy, why was I, such a pussy? Horror games are scary, which is why I would actively avoid them. I hate getting scared. Now, before this year, my experience with horror games has been limited. This may come as a shock to some of you, given my overall demeanour whilst I play them. Oh, fuck! Ah! Ah! Oh! Oh, fuck! Fuck! Ah! But I wasn't always the rock of manliness and muscle that you see before you today. Back in the day, I was a bit of a pussy. To allow you to envision the kind of stock we're dealing with here, here's me. This picture was taken in 2006, 10 minutes after the loss of innocence. So now you have the idea of the kind of stuff we're working with here. Now, before we go into my attitude around horror games, we need to go back, way back, to my first ever experience with horror in general. Let's head over to 2006, when I am 7 years old. I was in my house, sat in the front room in front of the TV. For reasons I can't quite remember, I was messing with a tape player. The TV was on. I think I was trying to watch recorded episodes of Doctor Who. I mean, we tape them and then play them later. It was really old-fashioned that way, but again, I suppose it wasn't. But you get what I mean. I put the tape in the player, press play, and this film started playing. This scene from a film. And it was a man and a woman shacking up. You know, things were fairly normal. Then things weren't. The man brings out handcuffs. I think to myself, oh, okay, so he's arresting her. Okay, that's fine, I suppose. Okay. And then the scene gets increasingly more violent to a point where the guy fucking bites the woman's face off. And I'm sat there, 7 years old, like, what the fuck is going on? I shit myself, turn off the tape player, run out the front door, and sit there watching all the other kids play, my brothers and sisters play, with a 1,000-yard stare. Now, bit of a background on that. As it turns out, what I didn't know at the time, and what I didn't realise until about 2 years ago, was that I'd watched a clip from a Martin Scorsese film, Cape Fear. The irony that my first experience with horror, and a rather scarring event in general, came from one of my favourite directors of all time, isn't lost on me. That was my first ever dip into horror in general. Now we're going to go into my first experience with a horror game. And it's not what you'd think. It was a scary flash game, as standard, and that flash game was called The Grudge. And, fuck everything about this game. Basically, you go into a basement, the Grudge kills you, flashing lights, loud noises, and you get a note at the end saying the curse has struck again, along with your fucking name on the screen. No. I don't mind horror games now. I'm a changed man, but that can go fuck itself. Now I know what you're thinking, Aaron, are you going to show us some gameplay of it? No. Not because I'm scared. Actually, it's because the game doesn't exist anymore. The only versions of it that do exist are 360p YouTube videos. So you can go look them up if you want to. But to get actual gameplay would require me to go back in time and do it before Flash players stop being a thing. So yeah, you're just going to have to take word of a frightened 11-year-old child. The funniest part about this is I wasn't even the one that was playing the game. It was my brother and his friend. I was simply watching. They ran out of the room. I didn't. Nope, I was frozen in place, terrified. That gave me nightmares for an entire week. And I credit that particular event with my attitude towards horror from then on, to avoid it at all costs. But there would always be those times where horror would always creep into what I was playing. The first was Judge Dredd, Dredd vs. Death. Now, Dredd vs. Death was a first-person shooter that came out in 2005. I went into this knowing nothing about the character itself or any prior comic knowledge, naturally, as I was quite young at the time. I went into it thinking it was a Call of Duty type first-person shooter, and I was there for it. Now, here's what happened. You start the game pretty standard. Basically, you have to do all the things Judge Dredd would do, using the lawgiver pistol to deal out justice to the citizens of Mega City 1, arresting them left, right, and centre for misdemeanors, owning a hamster without a license, owning a fish without a license, loitering. And then there's a sudden tonal shift. At one point, after you've just foiled a bank heist, a cutscene starts. All the NPCs are running away. One of them trips over. Then all of a sudden, this gone naked vampire jumps on her, bites her. You shoot him, he goes down, but then he gets back up again. He starts running at you more and more and more. You shoot him, and then he goes down round about after the fourth shot. This is where things got scary for me. Because again, don't forget, I was a bit of a pussy. And at that point, that's where I tuned out. And I was sat there thinking, right, I can still play this game up to a certain point, which basically means I can only play the game up to the first 10 minutes. And that was my first brush with horror in a game. My second one came with Call of Duty World at War. This is where my second horror experience begins, and it begins with Nacht der Untoten, the first zombies map for Call of Duty ever. Here I am, thinking, oh, zombies, that'll be fun, that'll be really cool, really fun, shooting waves of zombies left, right, and centre, awesome. Then you hear the menu music. Then you start the game. Then you have the cutscene of the crashed plane and the man waking up. Hordes of people moving towards you very, very, very slowly. And you see one dead in the center, moving faster than the others in a way that just isn't human. And all of a sudden, his corpse is on you, and then cut to black. Nazi zombies. You start the game in a bunker. This is where you will be for the remainder of the game. Round 1, you can see them in the shadows, through the fog, moving in ways humans shouldn't move. You start shooting at them, they don't go down. They get to the doors, their orange eyes piercing through to you. They're pulling down the barricades to get to you. You're on round 3. Yeah, I couldn't get past round 3. When they'd start sprinting, that's when I'd tune out. It would get too overwhelming and too scary for me, and I'd run. I'd literally run out of the room, terrified. I was 11 at the time. No, what you're thinking, Aaron, those weren't even horror games. They were all action games. I know, but allow me to retort that fact. Look at me. Look at this face. Does that look like a brave boy to you? No. I was a delicate child, and I still am. And from that point, the narrative would remain the same for the next few years. I'd play a game, it would have some horror elements in it, and then that'd be it. As I got older, as I approached my teen years where I'd get a bit adventurous, I'd been playing games for the last decade, and they're all the same. They're all first-person shooters. The occasional third-person game. I wanted more. I wanted a thrill. Thrill. So I developed an interest in horror games.
Don't touch that dial now. We're just getting started. Look behind you. I said, look behind you.
Now, I think it's safe to say that PT can get fucked. Lisa, the hallway, the noises, the radio, everything about it can fuck itself. But goddamn, was it immersive. Now, it's safe to say that PT changed a lot of things. It set the internet on fire when it first came out, and it's still iconic to this day and a staple of what horror games should be. Naturally, as someone who didn't play horror games and actually didn't even have a PlayStation 4 at this time, first world problems, I looked up clips of it on YouTube. All the Lisa jump scares, all the radio dialogues, everything about the game I wanted to know. I'd just be sat there like, why am I watching this? I'm gonna have nightmares for weeks now. And I did. PT gave me nightmares for weeks. It's unique in its aspect where when you're playing a game, you know it's just a game and you are safe. But with PT, you don't even feel safe in your own home because of how simplistic and basic it is. All this stuff you envision happening in your own house. That's what's so terrifying about it. It's at that point where I thought to myself, God, I want to experience one of these games. I have to. Naturally, you can't do that with PT anymore because Konami went and made pachinko machines instead of actual games and cancelled it. So yay. Thanks to PT, I found myself wanting to experience horror games. I wanted to play them, finally. But could never find the courage to do it. So I'd watch gameplay instead. And that was a step up for me, from outright avoiding horror to now watching the horror, still getting nightmares, but actually watching it. That was a step up for me. Now let's fast forward to now. The reason why I'm here and why there's people watching this channel, it's because of a horror game. Resident Evil Village.
Well, Ethan Winters. There you are.
Again, I've already told this story hundreds of times at this point because I'm still really proud of what happened. I made a video back in January of this year where I talked about a character from Resident Evil Village called Lady Dimitrescu. And I made a video about the fact that she was a bit of a MILF. And they've shown off one of the new villains, which is a incredibly tall, big-bosomed vampire lady. God forgive me for what I'm about to do. Nothing major, just, you know, bit of a shitpost, innit? That shitpost is currently sat at over 80,000 views. And actually propelled me to over 1,000 subscribers. So I thought to myself, guess I'm a horror channel now. Shit. So then when I saw those stats and I saw that I went over 1,000 views, I legit sat there thinking, I'm going to have to play it now. And I did. And it was the first gameplay series that I played on this channel and successfully completed without any cock-ups in recording or story or anything like that. It was the most successful series I've ever done on this channel. And then once Resident Evil Village was out the way, that kind of opened the door to more horror games for me. Alien Isolation, Dead Space, Resident Evil 7, Alan Wake. These games that I would have never have touched in 1,000 years, I found myself actively searching out and playing. All of them I played and I really enjoyed. And you guys did as well. And I thought to myself, if people enjoy me watching it, then the scares are worth it. And that's where I am today. Horror games and horror in general, I despised as a child and as a teenager, but now I can credit them with my recent successes. It's funny how that kind of works out, isn't it? And I think that's it. Thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. Let me know if you did in the comments below. Don't forget to also subscribe as well. Like the video if you liked it. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. And I shall see you in the next video. I don't know when that'll be, because I don't know when I'll be able to get this one out. Bye!
touch that dial now. We're just getting started.